Mindfulness in financial planning helps create a balanced, intentional approach to managing money. By staying fully present during financial decisions, mindfulness reduces impulsive behavior and promotes clarity. Mindful budgeting ensures that spending aligns with personal values and long-term goals, encouraging individuals to review and adjust their financial plans regularly. Mindful spending emphasizes the importance of intentionality, where a pause before each purchase can help determine if it truly supports happiness or merely satisfies a temporary desire. Incorporating meditation and reflective practices into financial planning reduces stress and provides emotional balance. Meditation allows individuals to gain clarity and approach financial decisions with calmness, even in moments of pressure. Moreover, practicing gratitude for financial resources shifts focus from scarcity to abundance, fostering contentment and reducing unnecessary financial comparisons. By integrating mindfulness into financial strategies, individuals can cultivate a healthier relationship with money while enhancing their financial well-being. A quick shout out to Enrique and a reminder to all the viewers to drop a comment, tell us where you're watching from. And let me start with Leisa. In your book, The Mindful Millionaire, you talk about the importance of shifting from scarcity to abundance. How have you personally connected meditation with money?
I used to be a financial advisor and I left 10 years ago. And I was really, really curious when I left that role because I wanted to understand why people really struggled, oftentimes as their advisor, before that as a mortgage banker, in this relationship with money. And ultimately, it came down to noticing that some people had patterns around scarcity and some people didn't. And so sadly, and I talk about this in my book, I was definitely in the camp that struggled with scarcity. And it took a lot of introspection to understand that many of the beliefs that I have about money came from when I was a child. Money was really tight. It was a source of deep stress in our family. And I found out that I wasn't alone in that a lot of people really struggle. And ultimately, through a meditation practice, I started really understanding that these beliefs that had been created when I was young no longer applied as an adult. I had been very good with money. I was a self-made millionaire by the time I was in my mid-30s, and I didn't need to live in scarcity anymore, but those patterns were so strong, I had to unlearn a lot of things that I had adopted when I was a child.
Interesting. Amanda, I'm assuming that this is not uncommon. This is something that you hear frequently. Can you help us decode some of our beliefs and behaviors? Like, how do you see mindfulness helping clients to become more intentional with their financial decisions?
Well, one of the things that mindfulness helps us do is to be aware of our emotional state. And our emotional state is a profoundly physiological experience. So mindfulness might help us recognize, for example, like, wow, my heart is beating really fast, or I feel a sort of fuzziness in my head. These are all indications, frankly, that we are in a fight, flight, or freeze response and experience. And when this is happening in our brains and bodies, we are really not able to do the cognitive tasks that are such an important and fundamental part of the money management process. Also being able to kind of tune into some of the deeper emotions that we're feeling that are deep, but maybe a little bit quieter than something that's as loud as, say, this anxiety, which is the thing that's often the most present and most that's at the forefront of our attention once we start paying attention to money. And the thing that I really work on with clients a lot of the time, it has become kind of a real focus of my practice, in fact, is helping people to attune to that physiological response, to understand that this is kind of how our brains and bodies work, but it's definitely not a system that is calibrated to the complexity of modern life, to the complexity of the decisions and challenges that we face, specifically related to our money. And in fact, if we want to make good decisions, if we want to be wise, if we want to direct our life, it involves us building a different kind of tool set than we would necessarily do if we were directly saying, just, I need to learn how money works. We need to learn how our bodies work as part of that.
Interesting. Leah, I want to ask you, since you work with many women of color, Talk a little bit about, are there unique challenges and how gratitude and reflection practices fit into that?
Absolutely. That's a great question. There are unique challenges to women of color, especially those of us who have experienced any sort of violence and trauma. And that can, and what I work with my clients on is just like Amanda was talking about, is getting connected to the physical responses. And what I do with my clients that have experienced financial trauma, and I'll give an example. If it's a woman of color who grew up in a home where there was, she was exposed to domestic violence, or maybe there was instability in where they lived, there could be a lot of trauma when it comes to feeling like the rug can be pulled from under her at any moment in time, which then creates difficulties in doing things like making on financial goals, because she may feel like everything's going to be taken away from me. So she's all constantly on alert. So what I do with my clients, oftentimes for women, is we create safety plans when it comes to managing their finances and doing the tasks. So making sure she has a plan before, during, and after to care for herself and to regulate the experience that she's having that may be causing her to not move or make decisions and just run and hide potentially from managing her finances. So that's the type of work that I do with my clients, and it's very common. And this is something that I talk about all the time because it's often missed for those in financial services working with women of color.
Marco, what are your feelings? How has reflection, meditation, and mindfulness helped you to become a better investor and align your financial decisions with long-term goals like sustainability?
Well, I told my story in the other podcast I did with you, but very briefly, I was a part of a team managing a large fund investing in emerging markets. And our clients were foundations and endowments, including environmental foundations. And one year I realized that one of the best performing stocks in our portfolio was a palm oil company that had destroyed the forest in Borneo. And so that was the time when I left the industry and I thought about other things. I got involved with slow money and other activities, but I never paid attention to my portfolio until 2 years later. I was sitting on a meditation cushion and I was doing a metta practice, which is sending well wishes, first to your surrounding, the family and friends, and then wider and wider circles. And as I was sitting there, I realized my money was still invested in the same fund that had destroyed those forests in Malaysia. And how could I send well wishes to all, sentient being when my portfolio was still invested in something that destroyed the habitat of the orangutan? So that meditation session was what got me off the cushion, literally. And I divested completely from all publicly traded companies because I did not know how those companies were operating, and it's very hard to know. And from there, I rebuilt my investments completely aligned with my values, with the key goal of being aware of what the money was doing out there, which was impossible for me to do in a mutual fund or even in things that were simply ESG screened. So I know this is longer answer than you wanted, but I'll save some time in my future interventions.
No, that's fascinating. I'm wondering if any of the other panelists have seen epiphany moments like that result in drastic action. Leisa.
I can completely relate to what Marco is saying. I remember when I was a financial advisor, there wasn't much discussion about ESG investing. And when it did come up, they would talk about the poor returns you'd get. And I had no idea. And it wasn't until I left my role and I had a person come on my podcast many years ago, and I started learning about investing and divesting of the traditional stock market. And I'm right there with you, Marco. Like, I think just my mindfulness practice over the past 25 years has caused me to pay attention at a closer level of like, what do I really believe in? Where do I want my money going? And how can it make a difference in the world? And one of the other things is because, back to what Leah was saying, I grew up in a very financially unsafe situation growing up. The stock market has never been easy for me because it feels unsafe. And when I started investing in this new way, I found that even if the market were to go down, I knew that my money was making a difference, a positive difference in the lives of others. And that would carry me through those times of not feeling safe.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think that in this like go-go world that we live in, we were talking off camera before we started about technology and screen time, and I think that we're inundated with information. It's always go, go, go. So the fact that we can take time to meditate and to be still, we need that time to be thoughtful. I think what you guys were talking about is a good segue to our segment 2.